Welcome to Bathurst, Australia's oldest inland city and home of the famous Mount Panorama motor racing circuit. A visit wouldn't be complete without a drive to the top of Mount Panorama to experience the racing circuit and view the magnificent outlook of the city and the rural countryside. Bathurst is steeped in history and combines the old and new in a picturesque rural setting. Bathurst truly is the city in the country.
A good starting point for a tour of Bathurst is the new visitors centre just off the highway. Here you can see the beautifully restored Brush motor car and the Cobb & Co coach. Although the 1909 Brush is not the first car to have come to Bathurst, it is the oldest surviving locally owned car in the Bathurst region. This fully restored Cobb & Co coach is one that once travelled the roads of the area. Bathurst was once the headquarters for Cobb & Co, and in 2004 it celebrated the 150th anniversary.
My interest goes back all my life, I believe.
A number of reenactments of the journeys of Cobb & Co have been held. The latest was in 2002.
Travellers often paid big money to sit on the box seat next to the driver, where they would listen to his yarns, poetry or the latest folk songs. Sometimes the box seat was even auctioned to the highest bidder. Cobb & Co.'s coach drivers were great entertainers who could recite ballads, sing songs and tell stories, some of which were rather exaggerated.
The drive around Mount Panorama racing circuit on the second day was an event eagerly looked forward to by all the Model A's.
It's just a damn shame the weather is no good.
Oh well, this is Bathurst though.
Yeah, it is Bathurst. Thank you. And that's your car. Rightio.
Okay. Sorry. Well, wait for that already.
Straight, go up, down, stay a bit. Billy,
The track itself is 6.2 kilometres long and has quite steep grades of up to 1 in 6. It is 174 metres in elevation from the bottom of the circuit to the top. Motor racing made its debut at Mount Panorama in Easter of 1938.
To drive around the world famous motor sporting track at Mount Panorama is wonderful, and to be able to be involved and be a part of that event is wonderful for these cars and also for the drivers who are here today. We all know that Mount Panorama is renowned internationally, and we certainly see the V8 supercars here each October, but to have a different kind of car here this weekend is certainly wonderful for the city of Bathurst.
Well, I think we've shot everything.
Yeah, we just can't.
Everything that doesn't
Becomes compulsive after a while.
Is it your first time at Mount Panorama?
No, not for me because I'm local.
Right.
This is my test track.
I've never been around it before.
Right.
I didn't realise how steep that mountain was. So you do it in the Model A, then you realise.
It certainly was. And what gear did you have to go?
I've done it in second,
right.
up the mountain.
Ah, very good.
And first this afternoon, first time ever, but that was because there's a breakdown, wasn't it?
That's right.
Otherwise we would have been in second.
It normally does it in second.
Yeah, very good. And are you enjoying your time here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Wouldn't be anywhere else in the world.
Should be some wonderful days in the next few days when you get out and about too.
But Mount Panorama will never be the same again.
Right.
Hello? Yes?
No, we've got about 30 metres.
Yes?
We thought you were going to stop and give us a
Yeah.
go.
Did you?
Yeah.
Lewis, can you just tell me a little bit about this car? What year is it?
Yeah, it's a 1928 Ford, of course, Ford Model A.
Yeah.
And it was bought in Melbourne, got about 10 years ago, put on the road about 6 years ago, and been to 3 national rallies now. And
Okay, so it's got a kind of more rustic look than a lot of the others.
Yeah,
Can you
just
explain that.
I just left it the way it was, just didn't fix it, and just fixed it mechanically and keep it going, and that's about all.
So why didn't you decide to do the glamour?
I'm not into polish, just can't handle it. So, yeah.
Fabulous, okay,
Yeah.
thanks very much.
No worries.
Great.
It's beautiful. It kind of adds a lot of charm to it. It feels more historical, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you just...
Now you've driven the course and experienced the steepness of the grades, I've included this short clip of a veteran motor race taken from the top of the mountain to Conrod Strait. This gives you an idea of the speed racing drivers tackle the S's, the Dipper and Forest Elbow. Back in the city, 2 Model A's and their owners visited the Civic Centre to meet with the Mayor and his family and offer them a special treat.
Oh, John, this is my husband, John Taylor. Oh, and Paul, you didn't meet my husband this morning, did you, John?
Hello, John. How are you?
And this is Leon. He's the other driver of the red car.
Leon, nice to meet you.
Paul and Joanne. And who have we got here?
This is Keely and Rain.
Hello, Keely. Hello, Rain.
My wife Joanne and Scout.
Hi, darling. How are you?
Mayor Paul Toole, this is another great event for Bathurst.
Yeah, look, a fantastic event here in the city of Bathurst. To have these beautiful little cars here in the city is certainly wonderful. The people of Bathurst have really come out to have a look at them, and it's wonderful to see something like 225 cars driving around the city of Bathurst. They've also experienced Mount Panorama. We all know that Mount Panorama is the iconic mega mountain for motorsport, and it's wonderful to see these vehicles here in the city. Councils are hosting this event. We're just seeing these cars coming through the region, and we're very grateful that they've chosen Bathurst to hold this meet. We've got people from right across all parts of Australia. We've got people here from all the different states. We've got people here from overseas as well. We've got people from the United Kingdom, people here from the United States, and also people have travelled over from New Zealand to be a part of this event. Certainly we see it as a wonderful event for the City of Bathurst, and once again the people of Bathurst have welcomed all these cars, and we welcome the club meet here to the City of Bathurst. The family and myself are about to jump in one of these wonderful cars, and we're certainly about to experience what they're like, and as you can see, they're a beautiful machine, and we really look forward to having the opportunity to be taken around Mount Panorama in one of these cars.
On the third day, participants had the opportunity to look at some significant places in Bathurst, many of which were steeped in history. Abercrombie House is one of Australia's heritage treasures. This is the private home of the Morgan family and is frequently opened up for guided tours.
Morgan, what a wonderful tour you've put on for the Model A people.
Well, it's a pleasure, you know, an absolute pleasure to do it, because there's kindred spirits in people that restore beautiful vintage cars and people like my family who try and restore old houses. So we have something that binds us before we even start. So it was a pleasure to welcome them all here.
That was great, and they looked so picturesque with the home behind them as they all parked or drove up.
Oh, they did. There's something very special about seeing a large group of vintage cars of the same mark. The house was built by James Horne Stewart. His father was a pioneer of the Bathurst Plains and arrived in 1827 and established a 15,000-acre farm. And the second generation, James Stewart, prospered and did very well and built this great house as a result in the 1870s. It was finished in 1878, lived in by the Stewarts up until the 1920s. Then it had a fairly mixed history, and eventually my father and mother came to Bathurst and bought it in 1968, and we began this great 40-year restoration project.
That's wonderful, and the collections you just collected year by year.
Absolutely. My father always said that today's junk is tomorrow's treasure, and so off we went to clearing sales and we bought wonderful old things. And my mother inherited some beautiful English furniture, and we also found some of the original furniture.
Wonderful.
So it's a very interesting collection.
And the structure of the house, you were mentioning something about that and the granite and restoration. Could you tell me a bit about that?
Certainly. When the house was begun, over my shoulder was a massive lump of granite, a huge granite rock sticking out of the ground. And so the stonemasons quarried out, for 3 years, quarried out that stone and built the house with the material. And so the basement underneath is hewn out of solid rock. So it's very, very strong. And the men that built this, they knew that it was the great project of their lives, because they were never going to build another house like this, I think. Yeah. So they worked very, very beautifully on it. I mean, the workmanship is incredible.
For sure, wonderful, and it's so great that you open it up to groups and people like these enthusiasts to appreciate all the work that's gone into it.
Well, thank you, and that is a great pleasure. Well, I'm president of the Historical Society in Bathurst, and so on their behalf, can I just extend a huge welcome to you to Bathurst. The City of Bathurst is very, very thrilled and delighted that you're here. Obviously, you bring something unique and wonderful to the city, and everybody's talking about it, and so welcome. It's just a pleasure to have you here. in Bathurst with us. We love old things. That's why we love you. Ladies and gentlemen, in a moment I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the history of the house and the property. Then we're going to go over to Abercrombie House and I'll describe that briefly to you. And then we're going for a great walk through the house. And when we've survived all of that, there's some tea and coffee and cakes on the lawn as well. William Stewart, Lieutenant Colonel William Stewart. Stewart was a veteran of the Napoleonic Wars, and he had in his pocket in Sydney in 1827 a land grant that was given to him by the Duke of Wellington for 3,200 acres of land. And Darling said to Stewart, I'm about to open up everything west of the township of Bathurst, and if you get on your horse and go up there, you can make the first selection of land west of Bathurst for your grant. So Stewart took that good advice. He arrived right here where we're standing. He claimed this as his grant of 3,200 acres. In a moment we'll go over to the main house and we'll stop at the front of the house and I'll describe what happened next. A very interesting period of development and prosperity followed, and that led to the building of Abercrombie House. It has 52 rooms in it, so you can escape from your spouse if you need to. It works for me, very nicely.
And for me.
Rex Morgan, your father of Christopher, who I've just interviewed. What a wonderful day it is today, having all those A-model Fords coming along.
Well, you know, we're great car buffs ourselves, not with A-model Fords, but it always gives us a great thrill to have car club groups like this visiting Abercrombie House.
That's great. And what a wonderful job you've done with Abercrombie House in its restoration and building up the collection.
Well, we've been here now for 40 years, and it was something that, of course, I started when I was young enough to do these things, and over the years we've gradually restored the house bit by bit, and now it's Christopher and his wife who do all the work, of course, and he's teaching his children to do it, so It'll keep going.
Wonderful. And the building itself, the craftsmen who put together, say, the stonework, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Well, what is remarkable about this house, firstly, I mean, its enormous size, but secondly, the fact that every part of it was made and built by hand. Because in those days, of course, they had none of the sorts of sophisticated machinery that we use today, no electricity, nothing like that. So all the stone was hand cut, hand hewn, all the wood was hand sawn, and the whole thing was just a sort of handmade exercise.
Wonderful. And tell me about your collections, how you sort of assembled those, a bit about the history.
Well, I've always been a bit of a bowerbird, that's the first point. And I always used to believe that, you know, so often you can acquire things which are rubbish at the time, and then they become valuable later on. And I think I've taught my children that. And so when we first lived here, I used to go and buy things at clearing sales, which happened just about every week in those days, and what appeared to be complete junk, you know, are now things that are really quite collectible and interesting. And in addition to that, my wife's family, who came from England, when my mother-in-law died, my wife inherited some very fine furniture, so some of the best pieces in the house came from that source. But we know we've always collected things, and I'm still an inveterate collector, and you know, it's just one of those things you can't help doing.
Well, it's wonderful. It's a great credit to you, and the way you've displayed it, how they all
slot in. I'm very taken with what I saw in there.
Well, it's very nice of you to say that. Well, we know people do find the house fascinating, I must say that.
It's such a tremendous asset to Bathurst and tourism. It's very good that you as the owner have opened it up to visiting groups.
Well, we enjoy sharing it as we can with people, as such as today, and all this, of course, helps us with the restoration work, which is considerable.
Well, thank you very much, Rex, for giving us the background, and I'm sure there'll be so many people from the A-Model Fords who'll remember the great time they've had this morning at this display and home.
Thank you very much for your interest, and it's been delightful to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Pam and John, you've just finished having a look around Abercrombie House. What did you think of it?
It is absolutely magnificent, and it's a credit to the present owners who are restoring the building and sharing it with members of the public.
Right, and it looks great seeing all the Model A Fords parked out the front of it, doesn't it?
Yes,
Oh, it does.
it does.
And you were shown around by...
Christopher.
Yes, and he explained it to you?
Oh, wonderful, yes.
Just in very so much detail.
Yes, it's a fascinating history, isn't it?
Oh, to think that it was nearly derelict and they've brought it all back.
Yes. And is this your first time in Bathurst?
It is, yes.
We came up for the rally.
Very good.
Yes.
Whereabouts are you from?
Benalla.
In Victoria.
You've had a fair trip. Did you drive the A Ford up or have it transported?
No, we brought it up in an enclosed trailer.
Right.
And it's a Victoria, which is a very rare A model.
Oh, right. Very good indeed. Well, and you've got some other things planned for today, have you, to have a look around?
Yes. We plan to go and have a look at the brush car.
Right.
And I think that's in your museum.
Yes. And the Motor Racing Museum is having its 70th birthday or celebration for Mount Panorama. It's something worth having a look at too.
Yes, we drove around in the old cars around the track yesterday.
Yes, I've got some shots of everyone there, so that's great. We'll have a great time and probably see you at Millthorpe tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes, we'll be there.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Barry, you're enjoying yourself?
Yes, the weather's come good, even a little bit chilly, but still bearable. And the old Model A Fords really love the cold weather. They really percolate along. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And at home, where I come from, Gosford area, it was pouring rain, but it finally cleared up when we got here, and it's been great.
Yeah, well, that's good. And what do you think of Abercrombie House?
As I just thought, quality tradesmen that are convicts are brought out here. They must have been snapped up to do all this block work and brickwork, and masons were a prime trade to have in them days. You've only got to look at the cathedrals and that in England especially to see that.
It would have been such hard work, wouldn't it, to you?
To carve these granite blocks that I'm looking at, incredible.
Yes. Well, have a great time in Bathurst, and we'll catch you no doubt on
We're off to Millthorpe tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow. That should be great.
Yeah, it's been wonderful so far. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The National Motor Racing Museum allows you to recapture the history of Mount Panorama racing from when the circuit was a dirt track to the modern structure you see today. There is a significant collection of racing cars, bikes and memorabilia to satisfy any race enthusiast. A special wing commemorating Peter Brock has just been opened.
Second place is Commodore of Peter Gagan and Golson.
Rebecca, you're at the Motor Racing Museum in Bathurst.
Yes.
Have you had any of the A-model Ford enthusiasts come up to have a look today?
Yeah, today we have. Yesterday we had about 90, and today we've had them filter through all day. Had a couple of their cars come up here. It's fantastic.
Very good, I'd say. They'd be very impressed.
Yeah, we've had a lot of comments.
Yes, it's certainly been expanded on, hasn't it?
Yeah, last year for the opening of Bathurst Race on October the 1st, we opened a Peter Brock wing, which was out the back there, which was adding another third to the museum. So,
excellent.
Yeah, we expanded the collection a lot.
Looks great. And today's a special day, isn't it, for Mount Panorama? Could you tell me about that?
Yeah, it marks the 70-year anniversary of the Mount Panorama. And we've had an open day today at the Motor Museum with a sausage sizzle, a big cake, and it's open for everyone to come in and have a look. So we've had a very good,
celebration.
Yeah, celebration today. It's kept us very busy.
Yeah, very good. And yesterday the A-model Fords went round the mountain, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah, yes. No, it would have been very interesting. We get a lot of comments from people saying they don't realise how steep it is until they go around it. So
yes.
Probably had an experience in itself, but then you got to do it in a Model A Ford on top of that.
Miss Trail's house was built by the Reverend Thomas Sharp in 1845. Ida Trail lived in this pretty colonial Georgian bungalow from 1931 to 1976.
Welcome to Miss Trail's house. The house is very important for Bathurst. It's a National Trust home. It's very important architecturally because it's one of the first private homes built. It was built by the Reverend Thomas Sharp in 1846, and he built the home for his family here, and he was the Reverend of the Holy Trinity Church. It's also significant because Miss Trail then bought the home in the 1950s and lived here until her death in 1976. Miss Trail was a direct descendant of the original Lee and Kite families, who were very important in Bathurst's history and the pastoral history. So it's a very important home, and it's been great to have the visitors from the car club here come to visit. It's very interesting today because one couple actually have a connection to the home here.
Right.
So their family owned property Molong, and of course one of the Lee family had property there, so there's a connection again. So they felt that it was very important to come and visit. It's great to have you here, and I hope you come back again some other time to visit.
I'm sure they will, and it's certainly an impressive home to see, and it's restored so well, isn't it, or kept in its period?
Yes, it's very important because Miss Trail bequeathed it to the National Trust, and she also requested that the home be kept as she had it back 32 years ago, and we've tried our hardest to keep it that way. And most of the furniture and the furnishings here she inherited from the two estates, the Kite and the Lee family estates, and so they're very well cared for here.
Back in the 1860s and 70s, Bathurst was a boom town as gold was discovered in the surrounding creeks and rivers. Villages sprang up along the riverbanks, bringing with them the goods and services required by the miners. The Bathurst Goldfields is a fun and educational experience showing life in the goldfields for the miners and their families, and how gold was extracted from the ore. This is the home of Ben and Elizabeth Chifley. Born and raised in Bathurst, Chifley was one of Australia's most respected Prime Ministers, being highly regarded from all political viewpoints. Chifley was in office from July 1945 to December 1949.
Ben Chifley joined the railway at 17 and by 24 was a first-class locomotive driver. In 1914, Ben Chifley married Elizabeth Mackenzie and together they moved into 10 Busby Street. This modest house would be their only home for their 37 years of marriage. This short clip reenacts one of Chifley's speeches.
The Labor Party at the next elections depends entirely, where it always has done, on people who work. I try to think of the Labor movement not as putting an extra sixpence into someone's pocket, but as a movement bringing something better to the people. Objective. The light on the hill. The light on the... which we aim to reach by working for the betterment of mankind, not only here, but anywhere we may lend a helping hand. If it were not for that, the Labor movement would not be worth fighting for. It does not matter about persons like me, who have our limitations. I only hope that the generosity, kindliness and friendliness shown to me by thousands of my colleagues in the Labor movement will continue to be given to the movement and add zest to its work. I thank you all for coming.
It wasn't only cars that travelled from all over the country, dogs also made the trip. Good girl. Oh, lovely, yeah. Autumn is the most beautiful time of the year in Bathurst, with all the glorious colours of the deciduous trees. While there were plenty of organised outings, many Model A's took the opportunity to make self-guided trips around town.
The Bathurst District Historical Society has been in existence for over 50 years. In that time, its collections have primarily targeted the Bathurst region from its initial exploration, but it has also acquired a great deal of material relating to the whole of the state and Australia. The Society has many different interests and enjoys sharing its wealth and knowledge with locals and visitors from all states and overseas. The main rooms of the Society include a small information and sales centre, archive rooms and a museum.
The Somerville collection is the lifetime work of Warren Somerville and features some of the finest and rarest examples of minerals and fossils in the world. The specimens in the museum represent about 1/4 of the total collection. Highlights from the mineral collection include crystals from over 100 Australian mine sites and gems from around the world. Features of the fossil collection include Australia's only complete T-Rex skeleton, Australia's largest collection of fossils in amber, fossil dinosaur eggs, and a collection of Australia's unique opalised fossils.
Now this is one of the oldest dinosaurs known. He's about 270 million years old, where all the other bigger dinosaurs are only about 100 or 150 million years old. That's what his bones look like. And on the painting there, you can see what he looked like when he was alive. He's only a little fella. He was about 2 feet to 3 feet long. Look at the teeth in the mouth. Now, this piece of rock came from Brazil, and the people in the university there dug it out and cleaned it so that we could see all the bones of the skeleton in it. And don't forget, these bones are 270 million years old.
The rally to the small town of Millthorpe on Sunday the 20th of April 2008 was mandatory for all Model A's entered in the concourse judging, and in fact nearly everyone in the Ford fraternity took part. What a beautiful sunny day it turned out to be. The Model A's made a great picture as they assembled on the Stannies Oval prior to departure.
Good morning, Trevor.
Oh, good morning, Bruce.
You're really fit.
I'm nearly jumping out of my skin here.
Right, doing the song and dance there. Very good.
Dance, yes.
Yeah, what a wonderful day it is, isn't it?
Off to Millthorpe.
Yep.
Can't wait to get there.
Yeah, that should be great.
Yes, yes.
The journey to Millthorpe transfers the small villages of Perthville and Newbridge and the township of Blaney. Mayor of Blaney Shire, the late Ted Wilson, had made prior arrangements to make it a memorable day at Millthorpe for all the Model A participants. Blaney was established in 1843 in the valley of the Ballabula River. Blaney Shire has gradually seen a change from its agricultural base, moving more into industry and mining.
Runs very smoothly.
Oh, the old girl.
Yeah.
She has her moments.
Yes.
some lovely little homes and buildings. It's got a real character to it.
Paddocks on the left.
Millthorpe is a historic town which dates back to prior to the 1840s and still retains today all its charms of yesteryear. This picturesque village, set amid farms and a rural landscape, is classified by the National Trust and is a great tourist destination. Oh yes, all these old cars, they're lovely.
A show of some sort.
Yeah, it's the National Model A Ford Convention. Oh. So some of these have actually driven from Adelaide and Perth.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
I live around here, but I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. No, you've been overtaken for the day, I think. While many of the Model A participants were having a packed lunch beside their parked cars, I took the opportunity to do a vox pop session with the camcorder.
When we travelled to Western Australia,
yeah,
we put 2 lots of baling wire across the back seat, and we put all our washing over there.
Oh, lovely.
Or we poked it out here, the underwear, and dried it on the hay planes.
Excellent. What a cute car to do it in.
Yeah, we love it. It's a new restoration, but we still love it.
Yeah, lovely. Oh yes, oh okay. And this is Zoe, was it? Yes. Zoe. Hello Zoe. Oh, that's excellent. Isn't she?
Yeah. You do.
Is that your car, Zoe? Is that your car?
She's ready to get in.
She's wanting to get in.
Had enough walking.
Yeah.
We've all had enough walking.
You're a clever little dog, Zoe. Still, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I'm just coming in for a close-up on this feather. That's gorgeous.
There are many 19th century buildings in Millthorpe. Charles Booth, who was in charge of convicts, built Grove Farm here in 1835, and Thomas Mitchell stayed there during some of his famous expeditions.
Here with it. Nice one, the filmmakers.
We've just had a nice lunch after our episodes of filming. We've been working very hard in getting these glorious A-model Fords and trying to capture the period, and Tracy is doing the interviews and the filming with us. So, and Millthorpe's a great place to get some lovely shots. John, your trip to Bathurst, were you impressed with Bathurst and its hospitality?
Unbelievable. That was the final reason why we chose Bathurst as the host city. We'd done a rather extensive visiting and touring around all the other provincial cities here in New South Wales, because we wish to host it, of course, in New South Wales, being the Model A Ford Club of New South Wales. And all the other cities had either great venues to handle the size of the national meet we wanted, but had very poor tourism things to see. and there was not enough motel rooms in some places, where Bathurst was absolutely perfect. It had nearly 500 rooms to accommodate people. It's got all the iconic things that people have come to know and enjoy in Bathurst, and the hospitality and the friendliness of the council and the tourist visitors centre has just been overwhelming. As you know, we've had Mayor Paul Toole come and open our rally on Friday morning, and that was a great plus for us. And today's function here at Millthorpe was all the work of the Mayor of Blaneyshire, Councillor Ted Wilson, who arranged all the parking for us and to have the little village of Millthorpe ready and waiting to accept all these visitors here today.
After the presentation dinner on the Sunday night of the 20th of April, many of the entrants gathered at the Bathurst Showground early on the Monday morning for a farewell breakfast provided by the Model A Ford Club of New South Wales. This was a great opportunity for a friendly chat with everyone and to wish friends a safe and trouble-free journey home. Following the breakfast, the Model A's farewelled those who were proceeding by coach to visit the Jenolan Caves. Jenolan Caves are, without question, Australia's most impressive limestone caves. Open to the public are 9 show caves with spectacular lighting, underground rivers and cave formations that amaze visitors. The complex system is one of the largest underground cave systems. Only recently, it was proclaimed the oldest open cave system in the world. In 1838, James McKeon, an escaped convict and bushranger, became the first European to enter the caves when he used them as a hideaway. James Whalen saw the opening to the caves in 1840, but it was his brother Charles who eventually discovered the breadth of the system. Visiting the caves in the early days was a primitive experience. Candles provided the only light, and visitors staying overnight had to sleep on the damp ground beneath the grand arch. And so came to the end of a very delightful visit to the Bathurst region. The Meat Committee was delighted to learn that its efforts were highly appreciated and that the meat was considered to have been of a very high standard.
At the time of putting the final touches to this latest tourist DVD, it was just after the long weekend in October. You might say, so what? But it's really something extra special that happens in Bathurst at this time to create an atmosphere of great excitement, anticipation and activity.
In reality, who do you think is actually going to win this year?
According to the loud lady over there, Lounsey. But no, what a great honour. As Paul mentioned, we're very honoured to have won the race twice now, and to have my name in the plaque, or Craig and I's name in the plaque on the pavement is amazing. But it's great to be back at Bathurst. I can't drive into this place without the hair standing on the back of my neck. The weather's great, so with your Ford to hold, and thanks very much, and we're looking forward to a great weekend.
Yes, as you gathered from the visuals, it's the time of the Super Cheap 1000, the famous Mount Panorama V8 supercars race that is watched by TV audiences throughout the world. It is not our intent to feature the race. The best experience is if you can actually be there, or second best, if you can watch it live on TV, with the excellent multicam coverage now provided using the latest digital technologies. However, in 2008, something extra special happened. That was the unveiling of the memorial to Mount Panorama's most famous motor racing icon, the late Peter Brock. We spoke to key people involved and will now let them tell you the story.
Julie Squires, and I'm the sculptor of the Peter Brock Memorial.
Oh, congratulations. I didn't realise it was your work. It's a beautiful piece of work. You must be very proud of it.
I am. It's been a great honour to be able to put this memorial together, and a very busy 5 months, but very pleased to get it here for Race Week as well.
It's wonderful, and there was a great turnout today.
It is. It's been a perfect morning put on by Bathurst weather. Race cars in the background contributing the atmosphere.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And your inspiration to create it, was it from a photograph or just in your mind that you...
No, I did see a photograph of Peter standing on top of a car, and I thought that really worked well for the location, particularly the National Motor Racing Museum's a little low to the ground as you're coming down the hill, so by putting him on the car, people will be able to see it as they're driving down the straight. And so the car sort of works as a base, as well as, of course, being a very important part of the man, so I thought it worked.
I really feel you've done him justice. It's a beautiful piece of work, and it's what's its construction?
It's made out of 1/2 ton of bronze. It's been cast using 2 different casting methods, cast in sand and also cast in wax. So the figure was cast in wax and the car was cast in sand and welded together. There's about maybe 12 to 16 pieces of bronze. I have to count them, all welded together.
Right, and how long have you been working on it for?
For 5 months now, and that included the research as well as making it, and I had a baby in the middle of it.
Great, very busy.
Very busy.
Well, it's a great memento to Peter and also to your outstanding work. Thank you very much, Julie.
Hi, Lewis Brock from Peter Brock Foundation.
We've seen a wonderful unveiling today of the statue. What do you think of it?
Oh, the statue's superb. It is awesome. It's iconic. What can I say? People will be coming from all over Australia to stand up by that statue and have their photo taken. I'm going to do it myself, shortly.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a great thing, you know, and congratulations to Bathurst Council and the people of Bathurst, because they went ahead and
it took
drove through and got what they wanted.
Yes, it took a while, but it's been so worthwhile, hasn't it?
Absolutely worthwhile. It's superb.
And of course, this mountain brings back many memories to you. So you, of course, look forward to coming to Bathurst at times.
Yeah, the adrenaline, as soon as you start to drive over, when you come from Melbourne, you come down this really steep hill and you can see the top of the mountain. It's about 20 kilometres away. And that's when it starts, that feeling of electricity and adrenaline.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for that interview.
Oh, you're welcome.
GRM crew, great job guys, can't believe you got these suit cars home, looking so good, such great shape. It's quite a long time since I've stood up here in this position, and I can say it's an excellent feeling. I must say that the crew that put the car together and serviced it and helped me during the year to develop the car, etc. And then these 3 terrific drivers I've had over the weekend, Greg Murphy, Todd Kelly, Jason Bright. I mean, you really couldn't choose 3 hotter drivers. But what a fantastic result. Has anyone ever seen a 24-hour race finish off like that? 2 team cars, battling it out, the winning margin, I don't know, must be a couple of tenths of a second. What a race, and I'm just over the moon, I can tell you that much. It's fantastic. Thanks.
We can get $2 million out of the
out of the federal government, we'd be very, very happy indeed, because that gives a total of $24 million. And look, I think it's very difficult to have the federal government understand just what an icon this motor racing circuit is, and just how it is held within the culture of the Australian public, because they do see this race and this racetrack as something very special. And I know that they don't mind handing out a few bucks for cricket and footy and things like that, but there's no reason why we shouldn't be looking at this particular activity in exactly the same manner as the federal government currently view some of the other sports, tennis, cricket, stuff like that. I believe we have 300,000 people go around the track each year as tourists. That's an enormous amount. Eventually we can redevelop the museum, put a restaurant up there, really develop the pit area so that it is absolutely world class. It would be an investment. And let's keep in mind that 300 million people, or 300 million homes, have this race coming to them this year. That's a lot of people from overseas destinations, isn't it?
Mayor Paul Toole, you must be thrilled with the result of this sculpture being unveiled.
This is absolutely wonderful. Here behind me is the unveiling of the Peter Brock statue, and look, we had a great crowd here this morning, a lot of Peter Brock fans, Peter Brock's family, friends, and look, a lot of the drivers even came out to be a part of the ceremony held here this morning, and they're all absolutely pleased with what they do see.
It was well worthwhile the wait till we decided what was wanted.
Look, it has been well worth the wait. It's been 5 months in the making of the design here, but council obviously went out to tender twice because we wanted to make sure we got it right. We wanted to make sure that the tribute was the correct tribute for a man who has done so much, not for racing only in Australia, but for so many individuals here in the city of Bathurst.
And it's in a wonderful position, isn't it?
Look, it's in a fantastic position. It's sitting outside the National Motor Racing Museum. Inside we have the bust of Peter Brock. We've also got a wing named after Peter Brock as well. And as people drive into Mount Panorama, they can see this as an iconic statue that is going to be so much here to Mount Panorama, because we know that Peter has had 10 wins here at the Mount.
Thank you very much, Paul.
My pleasure. Thank you, Bruce.
Make sure in your next trip or holiday to include some time in Bathurst. There's always something to see and do throughout the year. Find out for yourself why so many people regard Bathurst as the ultimate place to visit.